So let's start. My name is Martin Turoci. I am currently a software engineer at a company called H2O.ai, where I am living the dream of every software developer because I am paid to work on open source full time. So what can be better? Let's start. So today I'll talk about the Python framework called H2O Wave that lets you build Python applications that are web applications. So you might think like, okay, cool, but we can already build web applications with just Python, right? And that's totally true. We have things like Django, Flask, TypeScript. But the problem with these is that even though they are Python, you still need to know some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to actually do something, which as a Python developer you necessarily don't want to do or don't know. And another type of frameworks are more low-code-ish frameworks, which are something like Streamlit, Radio, or Dash. And these are very good for prototyping and some quick, dirty throwaway POCs. But as developers, we know that POCs often end up in production, and when they live long enough, the maintenance and the control that these frameworks give you is usually not enough. So that's where Wave comes into the chat, and we try to balance these two extremes, hopefully quite good. And the main premise of Wave is zero HTML, CSS, and JavaScript knowledge. So literally all your Python skills apply, nothing else. It has some nice big features based on like out stuff, and especially we support OpenID Connect. If you are not familiar with OpenID Connect, it's layer on top of OAuth. And if you are not familiar with OAuth, it's that thing that you click when you click sign in with Google. So pretty much industry standard nowadays. And last but not least, we also try to strive for a good developer experience by providing you with the VS Code and JetBrains plugins. But I believe that most of us are developers, and talk is cheap, so let's see some code. Okay, so let's start with making our empty directory for our demo project. Let's open it up in VS
Could
Code.
you zoom in?
Sorry?
Larger font, please.
Sure. Just give me 1 second, please. Okay. So, is it good enough?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so let's, as every Python project, you want probably to start with creating your virtual environment. And once that's done, all we need to do is simple pip install H2O Wave. Everything, I hope everything is cached, but we got it. Okay, and now we can start building our first Wave application. So let's create our app.py file. And now, even though I wrote almost half of the code for Wave myself, I never remembered the initial boilerplate that's needed for Wave applications. But thankfully, I have developed this VS Code extension with super handy snippets. So let's go with W for Wave, and I can pick the simplest template called app-base. And the minimal boilerplate for every Wave application, as you can see, is very simple. It's just a single entry point asynchronous function called serve. You can imagine it as a render function. And then one method called viewPageSave, which effectively just takes all your UI changes and flushes them down to the browser, which then renders your UI. More on that later. Then we have this app annotation, which allows us to specify at which route we want to register our web application. We can go with the default root route. So let's write our first hello world. And in Wave, the basic building block of every Wave application is called card. And multiple cards make up one page. So let's write our first card. We can call it hello. You can see that page is just the Python dictionary. And we can now use, for example, form card, which is the most versatile. And as you can see, it requires two parameters. The first one being box. And box means let me configure how I want my card to be laid out and sized. So let's go for a simple grid layout. So I want first column, first row, and let's say 3 units of width and 3 units of height. And once that's done, I can finally pick a text component with hello world, correct copilot, and we should be good to go. So let's run our Wave application. And let's see in the browser. We should see our Wave app at localhost 1101. You can see nothing broke so far, which is a good sign. But hello world is very trivial. So let's see how we can handle user interactions, for example. For that, we can add a button. We can call it a button with the label click me. We can see that everything rendered properly because the app auto reloads whenever you change the file. This one. And now, if I want to handle the button click, I need to check whether the button was actually clicked. So since I named my button as perfect naming convention, I need to check whether my queue object, which stands for query, and it acts like a God object, let's say, has these queue arguments, which is a dictionary with the name button populated. If so, I can do something like, for example, I can update my hello world text to something different. So let's grab a reference to our hello card. We can get items. We know that our text is at first position. We know it's text, and we want to change its content to button click, for example. Let's see. We click it, everything works perfect. So far, so good. However, if you listen to me carefully, you might have noticed that this serve function is called every single time I do anything within the UI as a user. So every time I click the button, everything is rerun, which is fine, but in that case, the card is completely recreated from scratch every single time I click the button, which might not be very optimal. So we need some way of doing it just once and then updating subsequently. And for that, we can introduce something like a constructor function. But we first need to understand how state is handled in Wave itself. So state, again, is handled via this queue object, and Wave supports 3 types of state. The first one, and probably the simplest one, is called client state, and that's scoped to a browser tab. So we can do something like this, and we can see that this queue client, again, is just a Python dictionary, nothing fancy. We can check whether it was initialized or not. If it wasn't, it's the first time we visit our app in this browser tab, we do our stuff and then mark it as initialized. No magic. So all we need to do is keep the connection. So all we need to do is just move our card creation card into our constructor, hit save, and if we are lucky, we didn't break anything. Continuing with state thingy, let's enhance our example a little bit more, and this time let's let's create a counter variable, counter state, which will get incremented every time I click the button. For that, I need to use client state. I can call it count, because why not? We don't need this hello world thing, and we can even, we need to display our current count like this. The button can remain, however we want, whenever the button is clicked, we want to update our count. And now we need to change this to label, and the final thing should be updated count. So again, no magic, just more or less standard Python. So let's see, we have a button, and every time I click, it works. Perfect, so far so good. If we open this application in a new tab, we can see that it has its own state, separated as you would expect. So no surprises there. And to be honest, that's all the concepts that you need to start building most of your applications. Wave supports hundreds of built-in components for you. But let's see some more real-world example, because in the real world you probably don't want to start from scratch every single time. So let's get rid of this code. And for that, we can use our wave init CLI command, which lets me pick a starter template for my wave application. I can pick whether I want just a header, or header and navigation figured out, sidebar, or everything a la carte. So let's go with the most complex one, and let's see what we got. So as you can see, I get something that resembles more or less regular web applications these days. You get some basic layouts, you get navigations working, you get how chart can be rendered, tables, grid system, and even form. Perfect. And even form stuff. And that's basically more or less everything you need. But let's take it one step further. And for that, we can try to add authentication in around 2 minutes, depending on how fast the Docker container will start. So let's run my Keycloak Docker container. And for those of you who are not familiar with Keycloak, Keycloak is a popular open source identity and access management solution, pretty much industry standard as well. And it will mimic our authentication server, which all of you use anyway. And for that, let me just show you. Wait. That's weird. Did I remove it? Really? I see. So we should. So let me open this flow. Close with the cable. Okay. So this is my Docker Keycloak. Nothing fancy. Everything that is relevant to Wave is just these 5 environmental variables, which is configuration like any other. I need to specify my provider URL, where I want the redirect to happen, and then some credential stuff. I will expose those, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. And let's copy it over there. Okay, and let's source it. Okay, let me do it one more time. Let's activate this and source set this. Okay, there we go. And if our keycloak is running, we should now access our Wave application and be prompted for password and username. And once I click sign in, we are redirected to our Wave application. And nice thing about Wave is that all the session stuff is handled for you. So when I go to another tab, the session is reused. However, if I go to incognito mode, I am prompted for sign in. So everything as you would expect. All the refreshes of the tokens are also handled for you as well. Okay, we got it in 3 minutes. So let's get back to our presentation. And let's see what popular use cases we identified within H2O Wave. So the first one, as I said, is simple toy applications and little POCs. You can see that this one is a POC for some bank, and it's related to document signature checking and showcasing how our machine learning models work on them. Then this app is something about electricity. Another really popular example is real-time dashboards, which I didn't have much time to talk about, but feel free to stop me and we can go over it together. And the one that's the most surprising to me is that some people were even able to do production-grade applications. For example, this one is called Hydrogen Torch, which is a real product that we offer. And the most mind-blowing thing about this application is that it was built by data scientists with literally zero web development knowledge. And it looks, I mean, quite okay-ish, I would say.
Sorry, about the looks, is it possible to use some web templates that you can buy on the internet and use it with the Wave?
No, not really, because all the components are developed within Wave itself. So as for the looks, you can change colors and that's it. But the Wave is more or less meant to be used for when you don't understand how to do this proper CSS styling. However, if you know the CSS, Wave also supports that as well, so you are free to enjoy. And then we have this another application, and this one is for model validation. It's just to show you how most of the Wave applications look and what's possible. And where to next? Wave is completely open source. It's on GitHub. You can go check the code. Everything is totally free under Apache license. We also use GitHub discussions, so if you have anything to say or maybe request some feature, feel free. We have Discord for the same purposes. Then we have the documentation with plenty of examples. So let's see. We have these widget sections, which gives you quick look about what types of components Wave supports. There's like super a lot of them. Feel free to choose whatever you need. And how do I get back to my presentation? Okay. Okay. And slideshow. And last but not least, we have also this Wave application called Turoci Wave. which is heavily inspired by Tour of Go. And this, basically what this does, this is also written in Wave completely. There's my cursor. Okay, and you can go through interactive examples and see the code for all of them. You can even play around and edit the code to see whether how it works and behaves. So that's it. If you have any questions, yeah, go ahead.
Is it more static or does it support JavaScript and can you ingest it?
We try to protect you from this evil JavaScript. But if you are really stubborn, it also provides support for custom JavaScript as well. But under the hood, this is just the React application, but with Python.
So what about plots? Can I use my own plotting package, for example, Matplotlib or Plotly, or do I need to use yours?
Perfect question. We have also our native plots, but also there is no limitation on Plotly or Matplotlib, or even we support Altair and Vega. And basically anything that can output HTML is supported.
Are you using the Wave framework to build a driverless user interface?
No, because driverless is much older than Wave itself. Wave is around 3 years old, and driverless, our AutoML solution, for those of you who don't know, is around 8 years or so.
Are you going to move to the Wave?
Most likely not, because it's so big and wouldn't provide too much value. And also one important thing to note is that Wave is not very suitable if you already know JavaScript, right? Because there's no point in fighting with Python if you can fight with JavaScript.
And do you serve it in production in Wave or do you need to use another server?
You can do, it's just the Python process, so you can do any VM you like, nothing really special is needed. Yeah.
Is it possible to create dynamic graphs like in Mesh? Have all those widgets for filtering?
Yeah. We have drop downs, combo boxes, sliders, everything you might need. Even more, I would say. I hope so.
On what user events do you refresh the page, or not refresh, but send a new request or WebSockets? How does it work?
It works via WebSockets, and the page is never refreshed since it's a React single page application, and every time something happens, so when you click something, that's not that much of control, but when you, for example, choose a drop-down value or click a button, or you can even add your own events to the Wave via JavaScript, and then handle them in Python. Yeah.
Can you integrate LDAP or Active Directory for the application?
This is currently not supported.
Does Wave integrate slides with some visualization tools? Any like visualization tools, or maybe you have something like to do charts or?
Yeah, that was also already answered. We provide our own native plotting solution, but also support things like Matplotlib, Altair, Vega, etc. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. Last one, I guess. Is there a nice way to host Jupyter notebooks using Wave? Let's say making them, maybe allowing them to be ran by the user, or having the Jupyter notebook exist as an experiment presentation or something?
It's at the end of the day, it's just a Python, so you can definitely fire up a subprocess of your Jupyter notebook and embed it in Wave. But usually people do the opposite, so they have a Jupyter notebook and then make it a Wave application, since it's a little bit more interactive, and usually find it that it has better storytelling capabilities.
So have the weight inside of the notebook.
No, take a Jupyter notebook, throw it away, and replace it with Wave. Yes.
Do you see a way to connect from the website, the visitor, to the local device, like Bluetooth device, like local hosts through network or something like that, or even serial port?
Not sure I understood the question.
Can we use hardware from
Which
let's say
is not
Bluetooth or camera?
You can, and I would like to add native support for that in Wave, but right now you can only hack it around with JavaScript and then hook up the events into Wave. So currently not really supported, it's doable, and hopefully I will add it soonish. But as for other more exotic stuff, we for example support image annotation, some audio annotation, and more of this AI deep learning stuff. Sorry?
Two questions. So the first one, do you know about the Streamlit package? Okay, then the follow-up question, how this framework compares to the Streamlit package, which kind of tries to offer some kind of capabilities.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have ever seen a Streamlit application and Wave application, then you would already understand like why we have built it. Because Streamlit is super good when you want to build very fast applications, but do not need very much flexibility. But once you want to add more and more features, it becomes a pain in Streamlit, whereas in Wave it's still pain but less.
Okay, thank you.
But effectively they are very similar. Yeah.
Are there some managed hosting service or is that for this framework or some, I would like to protect it from this stuff for infrastructures?
Yeah, we offer our own cloud platform. However, it's currently only enterprisey, so we would need to have a lot of money for that. And it's not something that the regular consumers could use. But you can host it on a regular VM like AWS, EC2 or whatever. And as a sneak peek, I'm currently working on a sharing capability so that you can run Wave share and expose your local host to public URL. So you will get there like something like ndrock or ngrock if you are familiar. You just type in Wave share and you get back your URL, something like my url.h2o.ai, and you can share it with whoever you want. Okay, any other questions?
So who is using it mostly?
We mostly initially it was intended for data science audience since Python is their bread and butter usually, but then people started using it also when, for example, Python developers who were not front-end developers, and they didn't need to build a new Facebook or Google. They just needed to build an internal application for some simple workflow, and Wave is very good at that.
What about documentation pages? Can I use Markdown in it?
Yes, Markdown is fully supported. Okay, I guess I will not waste more of your time. So thank you.